Well, howdy there, folks. This is your host, ID Jester. Thank you so much for joining me again today for a brand new episode of On the Horizon for February 10th, 2014. On the Horizon is a new video series that I'm creating, and basically what I want to do is spend about 5 to 10 minutes introducing to you some interesting things that are going on in the gaming community. So let's get right into it. Today we kind of have an RPG focus on what we're talking about. The first thing we're going to talk about is Divinity Original Sin. You can find out more information about this game at www.divinitysin.com. So this game is in alpha and it's been released on Steam. If we look at our Steam client here, we can see that Divinity Original Sin, you can pick this up. And they're giving you early access to the game, so this is an alpha build, so you have to keep that in mind. It's not completely finished, and there will be features that will be added and all kinds of different things, but you can pick this up for $39.99. In fact, I have purchased this game myself, and I plan on introducing to you some gameplay of Divinity Original Sin in the coming weeks, so definitely check that out. So what is Divinity Original Sin? Well, it's an isometric, single-player, and cooperatively multiplayer RPG with tactical turn-based combat, featuring an interactive co-op dialogue system and highly interactive world. So basically, what does all that mean? Well, what does that mean is you have a main character that you're going to be creating, and you're going to clicking on and moving around the map. And as soon as enemies come within sight, it stops and it becomes a tactical turn-based game in which you click on your characters, move around in a turn-based environment. So if you look at some of the features this game is going to be bringing, there's lots of interesting things they're going to be actually doing. The first thing is a gripping party and turn-based combat, which is going to be, like I mentioned, turn-based. Also, if you scroll down here, you will see that they're going to be releasing the tools that they use to create the actual game. So you're going to be able to get modules that other people have created and download. So you're going to be able to get exponentially more play out of this game as the time passes and people are able to create more and more things for this game. The other thing that's kind of interesting is the whole environment is very interactive. If you have barrels and boxes in your way, you can actually pick them up and move them around. You can stack things on top of things. You can create things from objects that you have, as you see here. If you had some wood and you had a doll and you had a knife, you could actually make like a voodoo doll. If you had rope and a stick and nails, you could actually create a weapon out of that. So the environment and what you create is completely up to your imagination. You'll come across barrels and stuff that might have, say, oil in them, and if you set the oil on fire, then any of the enemies that come in and into the oil would be set on fire as well. So a lot of interaction, what's going on in the environment. We're going to definitely check this out and get some videos online that you can check out and see for yourself. But if you're interested in an RPG isometric that you can play either single player or with your friends, you definitely want to look into Divinity Original Sin. The next thing I want to introduce to you today is an expansion pack for a game that was released last year. It's actually Shadowrun Dragonfall. It's a full-length Shadowrun campaign. So you can find out more information about this game at harebrained-schemes.com/Shadowrun/Dragonfall. So Shadowrun was a computer adaptation from the actual RPG rule set that was released last year. And I knew that when they released the original game, they were planning on releasing a full-length campaign in January of this year, but unfortunately it looks like that's been postponed for a little bit, but it's now going to be arriving on February 27th. So again, this is going to be a full-length Shadowrun campaign. I'm going to go ahead and play this video in the background as I talk about things here. and you can kind of see the action. So basically, you got characters, you're going to move them around on the map again, and when enemies come within distance, it's going to go into a turn-based tactical combat system. Again, it's based upon the Shadowrun RPG, so if you're familiar with that system, or maybe even if you're not familiar with that system, it's very intuitive. Your guys have a certain amount of action points they can spend on their turn. Shadowrun is kind of a post-apocalyptic setting that also has some magic and guns and it's a wide variety of different things that you can create with your characters. If we look at some of the screenshots here, you can see some of the gameplay in action here, and you can see that the game has got some basically a painted background that you're going to move your characters on. There's going to be interactive things that you can click on when you have your characters, and we're in a turn-based combat. You're going to be able to decide what to do with that character, where to move them, and what the kind of action they're going to be taking. And there's a lot of really interesting dialogue that goes on in this game. So if you're into, if you hadn't picked up the original Shadowrun last year, I would definitely have you pick that up. I have some videos on my game channel where we played the Shadowrun campaign, and now we're coming out with a brand new expansion pack called Dragonfall. So those of you who didn't know that, definitely look into Shadowrun. And lastly today, we're going to go away from our RPG theme, and we're going to talk about a game I'm very excited to bring you information upon. I don't think a lot of people had actually heard about this game. In fact, it was kind of weird how I stumbled upon it myself. But I've only backed one thing ever on Kickstarter, and this has been the game because I've been so impressed with this game. The game is called Predestination. It's an 4X outer space turn-based game. It was already on Kickstarter a while ago, and it passed the Kickstarter. They submitted onto Kickstarter so that they could add a 3D ship designer, and that was also very successful on the Kickstarter. I'm going to go ahead and let this play off in the background as you listen to me here, so you can see what's going on here. The Predestination is made by a company called Brain and Nerd, and I believe they're based in Ireland, and the game was scheduled for a March 2014 release. I have not heard if that has been updated or changed, but I'm definitely going to keep you up to date on what's going on here. The reason I'm so interested in this game is they are adding some really interesting elements and adding things to the 4X genre that aren't seen in a lot of other games. It is a turn-based tactical game, as you can see here on the screen. One of the things here, I'm actually going to put this on pause for a second because it kind of flows into what I was going to talk about here. One of the interesting things that you have to actually do is when you want to colonize a new planet, you're going to settle one little city, but you don't know what's on the rest of the planet, so you got to send out your scouts and kind of find other resources that you're going to use to kind of get that world to grow and to prosper and to get you to be able to build lots of interesting things. Another thing that they really introduced that I think the 4X genre needs is after your turn-based combat, you have the victor is going to be able to look over the destroyed ships, and they might find resources they might need, they might find weapons, they might find technology, all kinds of interesting things. So you're not just fighting your turn-based tactical combat just to blow up the enemy. You're basically there for a purpose, and you get a reward afterwards. So a lot of interesting things that they are actually incorporating into the game. If you go into the media section here, you can definitely see some screenshots of what's going on and how it's progressing. Again, this is in beta. If you were a Kickstarter for either the original Predestination or for their 3D ship model Kickstarter, either one of those, you were sent, you have access to the turn-based combat module and also the planetary colonization module, where basically you can play through a few of the little scenarios and check it out in action and give the developers some feedback on that. And I'm definitely going to be bringing some videos on the turn-based combat and the colonization module to my YouTube channel, so watch for that to come here in the next couple weeks. If we look at some of the screenshots here, you can see that there's been a lot of love put into this game, a lot of detail. It is like I mentioned, a turn-based combat game, so you have a lot of strategy involved, a lot of tactics. It's not just click on the enemy and just let them go to town. Each ship has its own weapons, its own range, and the enemies have the same, and you have different powers that your ships might have access to, such as a fast hyper warp that they could use to get some extra speed going on. And down here at the bottom you can see you have your different armor rating, and you also have your shield rating. And like I mentioned, this is only Predestination Combat 1 here, but they're already up to, I believe, 3 is where they're currently at. And so there's a lot of additions already to the game, and as you can see, they definitely put a lot of time into making the game really accessible and for the eyes, and makes it very enjoyable to play. The sound is gets you in the mood when you're trying to do things, and just a lot of the things that they've introduced to this game. I'm really looking forward to it, and as the game progresses, I'm definitely going to be making more and more information available about Predestination. And of course, if you're interested in some 4X turn-based space exploration, definitely check it out at predestinationgame.com. So there we go, folks. 3 wonderful things that are coming up here in the near future for your gaming needs. We have a little bit of Shadowrun, Dragonfall. We have some Predestination 4X space exploration. And of course, Divinity Original Sin, some RPG, role-playing, turn-based game action. So definitely check out any of those if you're interested. Also, leave your thoughts, your comments, or suggestions below. And we'll see you next time on The Horizon. Take care.